This is the new Solidstatelogic SSL2 Plus Mark II audio interface and is the latest revision of the widely popular SSL2 released a couple of years ago. And this is the Audient iD24, which is quite possibly the best audio interface Audient has put together so far in the budget range. Which one should you buy? Let's compare specs and features, do vocal tests, compare latency, and find out which one of these best budget interfaces I'm going to keep. If after watching this video you decide to buy one of these interfaces, I put links in the description and the top comment with the lowest prices I could find at the time of this video. I know some of you may be asking why not compare the SSL2 Plus Mark II against the iD14 Mark II, and while they both have a retail price of $299, I'd advise anyone considering the iD14 to spend the extra $100 and get the iD24. It's worth the extra money. Now this one's going to be a bit tricky as the winner may depend on exactly what you intend to do, but the first difference is on the front of the interface, and as you can see, the SSL has 2 instrument inputs while the iD24 has 1, so if you intend to record more than 1 instrument channel at a time, the SSL has the edge. And while both interfaces have 2 headphone outputs, the SSL has 2 separate dedicated amps with separate control knobs, while the iD24 has a single knob that controls both outputs. More versatility, the SSL wins again. Both units have 2 mic pre-line inputs on the back, but the iD24 has something no other interface I've tested in this range has, a pair of send and return inserts on the back, tailor-made for those who want to expand with external gear. And while the SSL has a line button that allows you to switch to line mode and bypass the preamps to go straight into the converter, the iD24's inserts allow you to use the built-in preamps and send the signal out to a compressor and back in before you record. For those happy with the built-in pre's, you won't find this feature anywhere else at this price point. Both units have 4 balanced line outputs to connect multiple sets of monitors, but went different directions when it came to expansion, with the SSL2 Plus having MIDI in and out, while the iD24 has ADAT in and out as well as a word clock output, so it really depends on the individual user and what connections you need. This is a close one, but I think with the added instrument input, individual headphone knobs, and the ability to bypass the preamps, the SSL2 Plus Mark II wins this section. With the SSL2 Plus preamps, you get up to 64 dB of gain, a 48-volt phantom power button, a line button to switch to line mode, a high-pass filter, and SSL's legacy 4K analog enhancement circuit, which when activated gives your signal a bit of harmonic distortion, and a forward high-frequency EQ boost to add a touch of character, much like the original 4000 series consoles. With the iD24's preamps, you get a 48-volt phantom power switch, a -10 dB pad switch, and a high-pass filter switch. There's no extra character mode here, but Audient's clean preamps are pretty popular for those who want a pristine, uncolored recording, but do fall a bit short on the gain range spectrum with a max gain of 58 dB. For this vocal test, I'll be using my Lewitt Pure Tube straight into these interfaces preamps. This is how the Audient iD24 preamps sound with nothing engaged, just a clean recording going straight into Studio One. And this is how the SSL2 Plus Mark II preamps sound without any coloration from the 4K button. When you're comparing flat versus flat, these two examples are what you'll want to compare to try to get a good picture of the differences. And this is how the SSL2 Plus Mark II preamps sound with the 4K legacy button engaged. You tell me, do you hear a bit of an EQ boost with added distortion? And which vocal out of all these examples do you prefer the most? You'll want to turn up your speakers or headphones for the next part as we compare preamp noise. Regardless of the differences you may have heard, on paper, the SSL2 Plus Mark II has more gain, so it can better power dynamic microphones, and has the added 4K legacy mode to offer more variety for those who might want to add a touch of character. When it comes to preamps, winner SSL2 Plus Mark II. One question you'll see asked a lot when it comes to audio interfaces is which interface has better converters. And the truth is, in this day and age, almost every converter in whatever price range you're looking at is going to be so good you likely won't be able to tell a difference. That said, we'll go by the numbers to determine who wins this category. Both audio interfaces have 32-bit converters, with the SSL2 Plus Mark II line outputs having a dynamic range of 120 dBA weighted, while the ID24 line outputs have 126 dBA weighted. The SSL2 Plus headphone outputs have a dynamic range of 119.5 dBA weighted, while the ID24 has 124 dBA weighted, so at least on paper, the ID24 wins. Now, because converter quality is almost always going to be good, I like to use my ears to determine which interface I prefer by seeing which one can drive my monitors and headphones the loudest with the least amount of effort. With the SSL2 Plus Mark II main outputs, I find I only need to turn the big knob to 3 out of 11 to get a really nice level of loudness in my room. Any more would just be too much. With the ID24, it's a little bit harder to gauge since it's an infinite scrolling wheel, but I have to turn it quite a bit up on the LED meter to achieve the same level of loudness. I'd say the ID24 needs to be pushed about 60% to get the same loudness as the SSL2 Plus at 25%. With the SSL2 Plus Mark II headphone outputs, I get a perfect loudness at about 10 o'clock, while the ID24 needs to be pushed to about 1 o'clock to get the same level. I prefer my interface to do more with less effort. SSL2 Plus Mark II wins. And when it comes to software, you may already be set and have a solid DAW and plugin library, but for reference, Solidstatelogic gives you 3-month trials to Slate Complete Access and Arcade by Output, while Audient gives you a 1-month trial to Softtube's Flow Mastering Suite and a 2-month trial to SonarWorks Sound ID Reference, but let's stick to what you actually get to keep. With Solidstatelogic, you get a range of plugins like Vocal Strip 2 and Drum Strip, Harrison Mix Bus 10, Melodyne Essential, Hybrid Keys and Complete Start, Ableton Live Lite, Autotune Unlimited, and more, while Audient gets you more instrument-focused plugins like the Access Synth plugin, Cinematic Pads, the Retrolog 2 Synth, and Torpedo Wall of Sound, but does come with Cubase LE13. This could be personal preference, but for my needs, I prefer the SSL bundle. When it comes to build quality, both units are built well, with the ID24 having more of a heavy-duty metal frame, while the SSL has a bit more plastic on the sides of the body, but still sports that sleek brushed aluminum finish on top. For me, aesthetics matter, and I prefer the more downward slope angle of the SSL2, and the knobs just feel better in my fingers than the cold metal knobs of the Audient. I also prefer buttons over switches, and the color variations of the SSL's green and reds and typical green, yellow, red LED meter on the inputs versus the all-white LEDs of the ID24 win me over. This one is totally preference, but for me, Solidstatelogic wins again. Let's run a latency test and compare numbers on my Windows 11 PC. So there you have it, almost a complete sweep like the World Series, and in this case the SSL2 Plus Mark II just offers so much more for $100 less, and while some of these categories may be preferences and may depend on your workflow, for me, someone who only records vocals, it was an easy choice. Now let me know what audio interface you prefer, and if you think there's a better option out there than these two at this price point, let me know, and feel free to make a recommendation if you'd like to see me compare two different audio interfaces. At the end of the day, just about every interface you buy these days is going to be fantastic, so don't get too caught up on which one you should buy and get stuck in the cycle of upgrading. Get what you need and focus on your craft. If you found this video helpful, consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell, as I'll have plenty of home studio content coming your way, and once again, I've dropped links to both interfaces in the description and top comment. Until next time, thank you for watching.